What is up, bodyweight exercise fans? Doing a Q&A video today. I'll be doing these once every month. So if you want your questions answered, make sure that around ending of the month, check my videos. You'll see there's going to be a pinned comment on the top with me saying that next video is a Q&A. And if you add your question as a reply to that comment, you can make sure that I'm going to cover your question, as long as it's about bodyweight exercise, nutrition, but also other stuff. And as long as the question is basically interesting, I'm going to be answering it. So let's get started. We got quite some questions. So I'm going to start with the first one from Steel Kettlebell Club. Hey Anthony, I like your new book. I think you're more concise in this one. It's more polished than the first one. Thank you. I may have overlooked this in my reading, but why did you pair pull-ups with push-ups and inverted rows with dips? I would think that you would want to put opposite antagonistic muscles together, vertical pull with vertical push, and horizontal pull with horizontal push. So either way, great book. Did the first workout with my 7-year-old son at 47 years old, young, and looking forward to the paperback version. I'm old school that way. Regards, John. So John, glad you liked the new book. And in regards to your question, so why didn't I, for example, pair pull-ups, vertical pull with handstand push-ups, for example, vertical push, or push-ups, horizontal push with inverted rows, which is horizontal pull? Good question. But first reason is that, as long as you're coupling, as long as you're supersetting pull with push movements, you are working at antagonistic muscles. Now, the reason that I didn't focus on precise angles like horizontal with horizontal push with horizontal pull, for example, is because I prefer, when I'm doing supersets, especially starting with an exercise where you use your whole body weight. So for example, pull-ups is an exercise where you're lifting your whole body weight. If you're doing the normal version, you're not doing like an assisted version as a beginner. I like to start my superset with that, an exercise where you lift your whole weight, followed by a bodyweight exercise where you part of your weight is leaning on the ground. So for example, push-ups, you are pushing your weight with your upper body, your arms, your chest, and all that, but part of your weight is resting on the ground, on your toes, on your feet. Of course, this leads to engagement of your core, but you're lifting about 60% of your weight in push-ups specifically with your upper body, the main muscles that you're targeting in this exercise. I like to do this because the first exercise is going to be high intensity and your weight will be enough to challenge you. And in the second exercise, you're going to need to focus a bit more either on mind-to-muscle connection techniques or to, do more reps, slow down the exercise. So basically, I like to start like that, start with the most difficult exercise, high intensity, and follow that by a second exercise. It also works like your second exercise is kind of like a finisher. You're already tired, so the exercise becomes more challenging, and that's the reason I choose to pair my exercise this way. I find it's a better way for hypertrophy, muscle growth. Was that all I wanted to say? Yeah, basically, that summarizes my answer. Also, you want to basically to have a balance of movement patterns. The only thing that you should worry here, I would say, as a bodyweight trainee, is not including horizontal rows in your exercise, because the most common imbalance between movement patterns that I see is, people doing a lot of pull-ups, vertical pull, without doing a lot of horizontal pull, because that can lead to some issues that we've talked about in the past. Can lead to rounded shoulders, atrophy in the middle part of your back, the upper middle part. So, that's the only thing that I usually see as an imbalance when movement patterns are not balanced right with bodyweight exercise. Moving on to the next question from Aman Gujar. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce your name. Hey Anthony, I'm adding mass to all parts of my upper body after following your program. However, I have very skinny forearms and wish to have thick and veiny muscular forearms. You have good forearms and train only with bodyweight. Some help here, please. So Aman, my tips for you is to basically keep on working out, keep on training, all bodyweight exercises, especially the pulling exercises. Work on your forearms. The more you're going to increase time under tension, so the more reps you're going to be able to do, the more you'll be fatiguing your forearms with pull-ups, for example. Maybe if you're doing like 3 reps in the beginning, your forearms don't feel it that much, but once you reach 8 reps, I would say, you'll see that things get more difficult. Tip number 2 that you can do, I used to do in the past, is put a towel around your pull-up bar. Or, if you use rings, like put a cloth around it and make it more thick. You can also find some things called like fat grips on Amazon, for example. I'm going to include a link in the description below. So fat grips are basically like ready grips that you can put on a bar to make your grip thicker. And, the more thick your grip is, the more strength you need to put with your forearms. Like the original brand is quite expensive. There's like a sort of ripoff or like pretty similar brand that is pretty good. I'm gonna link that one. Actually, I'll link both of them. You can pick whatever you want. So that's one thing. Be careful with thick grips, though. If you have elbow sensitivity, that can easily cause inflammation in your elbow, because like the more you grip a bar stronger, tighter, the more that radiates the tension on your elbow joint. So if you have sensitive joints, that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing you can do are one-arm dead hangs. Used to do a lot of those. I also have those in my superhero home workout. Those work pretty well. So you can start with dead hangs and progress to lat ups. So a lat up is when you're hanging from one arm and you alter between passive hang, so rest just hanging from a bar, and active hang, when you activate your muscles and lift your body higher. So basically you are pulling your scapula downwards and retracting it a little bit as well. I have a detailed video. I'm gonna link it above. You can check it out. So I think that covers your question. Do those and you'll see a lot of progress, especially with the one-arm dead hangs. Yeah, those help. Those indeed help a lot. I've done those. I've used those with good results in the past. Next question from politically incorrect Brontosaurus. Hey Anthony, great video as always. I like the knowledge you give us. I was researching the other day a way to make bodyweight exercises a little bit harder and found out this 1.5 rep method, where you basically do a full rep plus half a rep, the hard part of the exercise, and you count that as one full rep. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it might be effective? Thanks, bro. Keep on training. So yeah, basically the 1.5 rep method, I know it, is, for example, you're doing a pull-up, you pull yourself once up, then you go halfway down and pull yourself up again and go down again. You can do this, the half rep, with the difficult part of the exercise or the easier part as well, so the lower half of the exercise. This is not a bad method. Basically what it does, it just increases your training volume or time under tension. So in a way, if you do like 1.5 reps, it's sort of like 15 reps. Not exactly, but sort of. And what's important here is the time under tension. Now, you can just do more reps if you want to increase muscle growth. Of course, this, gives your body a little bit of a different stimulus. So it is kind of a good way to shock the muscle, as as the bodybuilders of the golden era used to like to say, like Arnold. I do agree with the shocking of the muscles principle. Not just, I don't want people to get too aggressive with it. Like you don't need to change things that often. Just little small adjustments are enough. I'm not a big fan of the 1.5 rep. I've done it in the past. I prefer making other adjustments to shock my muscles to keep on growing. We've talked about this a little bit in the previous videos. But yeah, like I prefer doing adjustments such as increasing training volume, other specialized training methods such as supersets, circuits, and stuff like that. But hey, it's not a bad thing to use. If you do use it and it works, then definitely go for that. So this one is from Fukazepe, who says, "Hi Anthony, what's currently your mobility drill routine before working out? In your last book you wrote about warming up, but not as specifically in this one. Thanks in advance and have a good day." So Fukazepe, long time Bodyweight Muscle subscriber, thank you for your question. The mobility drill is basically the same one I've been doing the last year. I just find it's so short and so effective that I haven't changed it. I'm gonna link it above, and I guess that covers your question. We can move on to the next one. This one is from George, who says, "Hey Anthony, good video. Already working on it, and 3 minute." Let me rephrase this a bit. So George says that he agrees with my video. He prefers longer resting periods, like 3 minutes work better for him. He also says that he's gained quite some muscle from both bodyweight exercises and resistance training. And his question is it possible to train resistance, to do like lift weights for 2 or 3 weeks after deload week and get back to your program and go on? Can resistance training give a little bit of an extra push? So George asks if he can combine bodyweight training, if he can basically alter between bodyweight training periods and weightlifting periods. You can do that for sure. If like you like it as a way to switch things up a little bit, avoid getting bored. Maybe if you find it bored to do the same things all the time, that's not bad. But for muscle growth, I would say it's better to be consistent on one method, on one routine. So basically, this way you can better keep track of your progress. You can focus on progressive overload, whereas when you're switching from one program to the other, it's a little bit difficult to work on progressive overload, which is like the number one principle of building muscle. For those who don't know, progressive overload is when you're just doing the same exercises and more or less, and you're increasing the intensity or the training volume of your program in order to keep on progressing gradually. So I would say a better way would be combining weights and bodyweight. If you definitely want to do lift weights, like I prefer bodyweight exercises. I find them more practical, more flexible. I can train anywhere, anytime. I just have my pair of rings here, maybe some bands sometime, and that works better for me. I like that style. I just have a backpack with me, and I go train anywhere, as long as I find like a basketball court or something to put my rings around, a tree. I'm good to go. I have like my Bluetooth speaker, my music, and I'm good. I can train in nature. I can train in the city. It's a fit lifestyle that I personally prefer. So this is from Bickham, who says, "Hi Anthony, I usually rest between 60 to 90 seconds. Which bodyweight exercise do you prefer to grow big biceps? And by the way, really good content." So thank you, Bickham. Glad you are enjoying my content. Best exercise for big biceps. So I would say that there is no best bodyweight exercise for biceps, but it's more of a combination of combining all the movement patterns, the basic primal movement patterns, pull, push, horizontal, vertical, decline, dips, inverted rows, push-ups, handstand push-ups or pike push-ups, pull-ups. When you combine all these exercises that I'm always using personally in my program and in bodyweight muscle, you trigger, you basically, you know, stimulate your arms. You hit your arms from all kinds of different angles. They work in different ways, you know. So a lot of them will focus on the negative part of the rep, you know, so your muscles contract eccentrically, other times more concentrically, and you know, you need both concentric and eccentric contraction to get the best results for hypertrophy. Concentric basically is when your muscle contracts, basically shortens in length when it contracts, and eccentric contraction is when your muscle lengthens. That could be, for example, when you go working on the lowering part of a chin-up, your bicep contracts eccentrically in order to make the lowering part more smooth, to like break the motion in a way. So I would say basically, Bigum, that if you focus on combining all these movement patterns, you'll slowly start seeing really good results with your arms, you know, and you're gonna work this way more on the calisthenics physique that I like to talk about, you know, that lean, muscular, strong body that is not that bulky, like not that bodybuilding like, but more aesthetic, you know. So if you have really slow progress with your biceps, maybe, you know, it's genetic sometimes that you find it really difficult to get muscle growth with your biceps. You know, I wouldn't focus on finding like bodyweight exercises. There is like the inverted row with your hands, your grip facing towards your face. Well, you can kind of do like a bicep curl on a bar, like type of such as the one that you use for inverted rows. So it has to be like a horizontal bar, and you assume a horizontal inverted row position, but instead of having your hands like this, you have your hands like this, and you bring yourself close to the bar from a horizontal position. You know, could work a little bit, but I'm not a big fan of it. You know, if you want to work on your biceps, I would say get a set of dumbbells. You know, I don't often recommend lifting weights with my program, but you can have like a set of dumbbells at home and supplement a little bit your bodyweight workouts with some basic dumbbell curls. If you don't want weights, another way you can do this is with bands as well, but weights here do work better for isolating your biceps. So that's my tip. Moving on to Chris Prester, who says, "Hi Anthony, what